Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I'm so grateful that you're here. This is the daily medicine transmission for Monday, July 26, 2021. Can you believe that it's almost August already? I can. I'm pretty blown away. So welcome back, everyone, after a nice long respite. We had the full moon over the weekend on Friday night, Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Got a bunch of subscribers on BitChute, so it's good to have you here. And as always, whenever you interact with this content in any way, like, share, subscribe, comment, it actually does support the channel and support the continued creation of this content, especially if you find it inspiring or helpful. Other people might find it inspiring or helpful as well. So that is my promotional spiel for Monday morning, and we'll get right into today's transmission, which is about getting back to the roots. So the sun is now in Leo. We've had our first Aquarian full moon of the of this month, this time, right? We're going to have another Aquarius full moon as part of the next lunar cycle, right? That's going to be a new moon on the 8th on the Lion's Gate, right? A new moon in Leo, wow, on the Lion's Gate of 8/8, and then moving into, hold on one second. I always second guess myself because yes, indeed, it is the 8th. I just wanted to make sure before I open my mouth and start saying things that turn out to be inaccurate. And none of us are perfect, and it happens sometimes. And it's really just much more beneficial to everybody to just accept that when we are wrong about something and learn from the situation rather than doubling down and pretending that we are not a fallible human being. So anyway, the 8th on the Lion's Gate will be a Leo new moon, and then the next full moon will also be an Aquarius full moon at the back end of Aquarius. So we had the full moon in Aquarius at the beginning of the signs at 1 to 2 degrees Leo Aquarius, and then we will have the next Aquarian full moon at the last degree of Aquarius. So the whole idea here is this particular cycle and the next cycle are really showing a lot of what we individually express, what is an expression of our passion, what is an expression of our joy, what is an expression of our ego consciousness, all of the things that Leo represents, the solar rebirth of the individual sovereign being, coming into the full vessel for this divine source to move through, often considered the Kundalini, right? The coiled serpent, when it is able to move through a divine vessel, it is at its highest. And so with Aquarius, it is the collection of all of these individual sovereign nodes, right? It is the Leo as the heart and Aquarius as the blood vessels, right? Or the circulatory system in itself. And so nothing that we express, nothing that we nothing that we put forward as the blossoming of who we are is ever lost on the collective, and in fact is what infuses the collective with all of the energy that it needs. And we've talked about this before, about how the blood is the transporter of the chi through the body, right? The blood brings all kinds of substances to where it needs to go. It brings oxygen to where it needs to go. It also transfers heat throughout the body. But we can't really separate this version of ourselves, this Leo version, this full expression of who we are, from how it impacts the collective. And this full moon over the weekend really set the tone for how our individual expression will in fact spread throughout the collective. It's inevitable, right? And what kind of impact that can have not only on us, but on our intuitive nature, how we feel about things, and how we adapt to the world around us. And when we have an Aquarian moon like we did over the weekend, now that our moon has moved into Pisces, totally different feeling. But now that the moon has moved into Pisces, but it had been in Aquarius, it really showed us how we can adapt to situations that we don't necessarily plan for either. Because for as much as humanity is able to develop and use our technology that has evolved, use our mental acuity and our skill and our ability to be a conscious agent of our own evolution. We are still part of the natural process. We are still part of the larger context of nature in this universe. And there are things that nature is able to take away that we have built. And it's not to say that there's huge disaster necessarily on the way. It's that when we put our expression out there, when we allow the fullness of who we are to really show itself and to blossom, it does have an impact on everything around us. And sometimes it is more than we had planned for. Sometimes it is beyond what we can control for. But that is the commitment we made with the last new moon, right? That actually this particular new moon still that started in Cancer, we're still in this cycle, aren't we? And we have made a commitment. We've chosen to ritualize and sanctify this relationship within us, right, of our darkness and our light, of our shadow and our light, of our black and our white, the masculine, feminine, all of these aspects that represent the polarity within each of us. We've made a decision to follow through with that no matter what, and to see it as a sacred union. Mars and Venus coming together in Leo exemplified that, made it very real. It was a sacred union that activated that intention. And now with the full moon that just passed, we got a very strong glimpse on many levels, some people much stronger than others, of how this exemplification, and when now that the sun is in Leo, how this could potentially make an impact on how we feel, how we adapt to the world around us, and if we in fact are able to maintain not a detachment, but to utilize our sensitivity and that cosmic coherence that we feel to guide us through situations. How are we going to prepare for what is the inevitable result when our individual nature spreads to others? Because it's kind of like an epidemic in some ways. That second degree of Leo is the spreading of something throughout the circulatory system, and it has an impact, and we can't necessarily always control for it. So, like I said, some people more than others were shown how to, within themselves, how things are going to potentially unfold and how they can adapt to them, how they feel about them. So personally for me, because I can speak from my experience, so I can share my situations as a teaching tool, I guess, this weekend was an incredible amount of respite, right? Because this full moon happened right on my axis of my AC and my DC, right? The sun is now in my 7th house. The moon has been transiting my 1st house, 0 degrees Aquarius, 0 degrees Leo, as that horizon of my consciousness here. And it was an important respite, right? Because it showed me how in my relationships, in my close associations, when I am expressing myself, when I am fully engaged in who I am, it will spread and it will make an impact not only on my relationships, but it will reflect back onto me and how I present myself to the world. And so this weekend was a really like I said, for me, it was a respite, right? It was like a gathering of resources and letting some things really sift through, right? Not a lot of input necessarily, not a lot of input, not a lot of new information to process, just the opportunity to really let what is already there move through the system. So we're going to see today that I'll show you when we look at the chart eventually, I'll show you the graph, but the Schumann resonance is peaking now pretty strongly when it had been quiet for most of the weekend. So what is there to expect? And I would say that the collective is waking up every day, multiple times a day. It's coming back around. And so when that happens, and if we are in fact connecting consciously to this, mycelial network that is in the earth of this energetic matrix in some ways, this lattice structure, When we do that, it is going to have an impact not only on the collective, but on the collective energy and the planet herself. So something is building now, and the electromagnetic frequency of the planet, for as much as it's weakening over time, which apparently I'm learning is a precursor to a magnetic shift, right? And we've known this is coming for a while. We've intuitively known it. Many of us have had experiences where we've downloaded this information, but the weakening magnetic field is also a precursor to this magnetic, not a huge pole shift, but a definite magnetic shift, right? The field weakens in order to be able to shift its position. But the Schumann is, in fact, raising right now from that 7 to 8 hertz to almost 60 or 70 right now. So something is brewing, and something in the heartbeat of the planet is moving faster and emitting a much more high frequency field lately. So just keep that in mind. So, all of the normal kind of Schumann resonance, spikes, the symptoms, right? The ear ringing and not being able to sleep, and really, some people are really agitated. Other people are really in the flow. Something is moving now. And I think after the full moon, giving us full illumination about how each of us can address the things we can't plan for, when in fact our own sense of who we are spreads to the collective. And this is why it's so important right now that we acknowledge how powerful we are in this way. And when we look at the reading, which we will move to very shortly, we're going to see that this theme of how we are in charge of our own reality, how we are very powerful co-creators of this experience, how it is still right here in our faces. And in fact, the impact of that may be very, I don't want to say traumatic, but it's something that is unexpected, right? There's something with a lot of energy behind it. How are we going to address that? How are we going to handle that? What are we going to do about that? And each of us had the opportunity to really see that, feel that, have that reflected back to us at some part in our chart, right? So because what's coming now down the pipeline is the fulfillment of this lunar cycle. So we're going to have the third quarter moon coming as well. That's going to reflect our crisis in consciousness. And with the sun in Leo, right, we really are like in full bloom now, right? The fullness of our expression in the area of regal, sovereign, completely dramatized, right? The drama is a big part of the Leo archetype as well. And that's not to say it's good or bad or appropriate or inappropriate. That's very situational, isn't it? But when it is not for the highest good, when we are not in full alignment with our root system either, then this is where we run into, I wouldn't say problems, but this energy is not utilized for the highest purpose. So let's get right into the reading, give you some indication here of how, how the universe is speaking to us. And it speaks to us a lot of times through our imagination, through our ability to abstract and transfer concepts through symbols, right? This is our ability to pick up on energetic resonance and frequency through other types of modalities or other types of, transfers, right? Light, sound, patterns. I mean, humans are amazing at pattern recognition. This is why symbols and symbolic representation to encompass entire experiences is something that humanity is incredibly capable of doing and really masters when we allow ourselves to do so. So I'm going to start showing the reading. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to address. The full moon was very, very big and powerful, and it really did show us, give us a glimpse into how we can adapt to situations that will potentially be very challenging, that we can't go back on now, right? That's the thing. Like, we've moved forward in this process, especially with this new moon, like I said, in Cancer, where we have set the stage, we have committed to this productive relationship within us, and now it's growing, and now it's expressing itself, and it will in fact bump up against all of these other aspects of reality that we will be challenged to move through. And it's the Venus in Virgo. Man, she does not want to work, but she kind of has to, right? She has to work right now. And the benefit here is that Vesta, asteroid Vesta, right? The hearth flame at the center of all that inspires and invigorates and keeps the spark of life going for all of us, within us and within our collectives, in our families, in the community, in our society. She is now in Libra. So they're kind of in this, they're both in each other's signs right now. And this is, I think, really supporting Venus, who wants to be comfortable, who wants to be secure, who doesn't actually want to act on any of the earth-based positions that she is usually most, she's the most comfortable in, right? She's the most comfortable in Taurus. She's uncomfortable in Libra. She actually does apply her sensitivity to finding some level of balance in the world. But when it comes to actually working on herself, when it comes to actually being meticulous and detail oriented and putting things where they belong, it's an action that she struggles with. But this is where we need to actually focus our attention, because Mars, thankfully, will be coming into Virgo as well, and is a little bit more suited, I think, to this position of actually working the root system in order to support the growing of this new phase that we're going into. And it's going to be challenging. The level of information that we're all pulling in on a regular basis is so exhausting. And so we have to really be in touch with our bodies. We have to plug into the energetic grid of the planet herself, let her support us. And this is just going to keep getting more and more pronounced as the nodes eventually shift into Taurus and Scorpio. So I'm going to do a whole thing about that, because I think that that's going to really shine some light on where we as a planet and a species are going in our evolution, and how to really embrace where we are going. So let's look at the reading for today. I hope everyone is doing well, taking very good care of themselves. Remember to stay hydrated. Remember to listen to your body. Remember to take care of yourself and don't overwork yourself. Because you do need to listen to your body. We all need to be able to listen to our body, because that's going to be the main way for us to navigate what's happening right now, because it is going to get more chaotic. And every time I listen to another teacher, another content creator, another influencer that I actually still listen to, a lot have dropped off for me personally. They're all, we're all saying the same thing. It's going to get more chaotic as the shadow is revealed for what it is. As we've made the decision as a collective, as a species, we're moving forward now, and we have been for a while, ever since January of 2020, when Saturn and Pluto came together. It was kind of the beginning of the end, right? And so now we're going through, the actual experience of it. Like, it's coming to the surface more and more and more, and it will be chaotic. It just keeps coming up over and over that it's going to move faster. It's going to be more chaotic. It's going to be very challenging. And this is the time where we really do need to get back to our roots, so that we are not uprooted when we are faced with some really challenging situations based on what we have chosen to bring into our awareness. Okay, so here we go with the reading for today. We have some very strong Sagittarian and Jupiterian elements. We have the alchemy card right at the center. We have the Wheel of Fortune as our, as our effect on, or our expectation, I guess you could say, although you want to kind of keep expectations at a minimum in terms of what will happen. But at the very least, acceptance of fate, right? We just talked about this, acceptance of fate. It's a cause and effect relationship. We have committed to this process. We have sanctified it. We have made it sacred, and we have committed within ourselves to move through this. And so that will turn, the wheel is always turning, and we don't always know where it's going to stop, but we do know that based on everything that has come before that, where it stops will affect our future. And that's really a very basic understanding of fate. It's just a cause and effect relationship and the realization of facts. But where it starts is here. the Two of Swords, right? Peace of mind is where it starts. And this causal factor here that comes in, it's really inviting us to find this peace of mind today. So the moon in Libra represents the Two of Swords. This is like the only real good, maybe except for the Six of Swords. This is one of the few swords, one of the few cards or archetypes in the sword suit that is actually balance, because it's really the journey in the mind that really we struggle so much with, because it is sharp, right? It's double-edged all the time. And sometimes not so much, but in this case, we're finding our balance here. The two swords meeting in the middle within this, what looks like a lotus flower, actually, which is what is the main image for today's transmission, was part of, I took that in my kayak, over the weekend, just pulled right up next to it and clicked some pictures. And, a lot of them were opening up and blooming. So, and if you understand, the structure of a lotus flower, the root system comes down from the lily pad all through the water and has to reach the bottom of in this case, the lake, whatever waterway it's in. And so it has to reach down. And with the moon in Pisces today, this really factors in very strongly, this whole imagery of the lotus flower. There's a reason that it is used as and seen as a symbol of spiritual growth, right? Because it is about the extension of this root system all the way through the murky water down into the depths of feeling into then the earth at the bottom that it then, and the roots embed themselves in. So we see this causal factor here as this peace of mind, right? Which is important, because I think that in order to not only execute this alchemy in a very masterful way that we're seeing here, but also too to be able to withstand the turn of the wheel and with some grace and some stability here, we're going to need some peace of mind coming into the situation. So it's the beginning of analysis. It's the arrangement of differences, right? It's distinctly different, but they're coming together at the center point within the lotus flower, moving up through the middle. So there is an arrangement of differences to find balance. And it's this peace of mind. So coming into this moment, peace of mind. Remember, Vesta, asteroid Vesta, is in Libra right now. And we can find some peace of mind, I think, if we allow ourselves to all surround that fire at the center of our souls, at the center of our communities, the creative spark and the what sustains us throughout all of our challenges. It's something we can all rally around as we embark on a new set of ideas, right? And a new set of information that keeps coming in. But this causal factor here of balance is really essential to the rest of this reading playing out in the way that you see. So peace of mind coming in. And that may be difficult for many of us. I mean, there are a lot of challenges right now, and some things we think are there are things that we believe are going to work themselves out, and then we keep hitting a wall, and then we're like, oh, I solved it, and then you hit a wall, and then, oh, it's over, oh, I hit a wall, right? It's going to keep happening because we have to solve some of these problems by going through every opportunity and for adjustment, every opportunity to, I guess, figure out what it's not, right? I mean, this is kind of this process right now, which is really frustrating. So keeping this peace of mind, being able to arrange differences, being able to be the beginning of some analysis that only comes with this difference, right? There has to be these 2 points that come together in the middle to even have this central point of peace of mind. So that's something to consider as well. Allowing ourselves to find some internal balance here within ourselves and our feeling-based landscape, our intuition, okay? We have to start here. And as we move to the heart of the matter here, that axis point at our heart space between where we're at energetically and what's going on outside of us, is alchemy is in fact about dissolving these constituent parts and combining them again to create something absolutely new, right? And so we dissolve and combine. This is about the perfect balance, right? In order to create something entirely new. This also suggests that, it's important to live out previously ignored signs. And this goes, again, back to this moon in Libra, this Two of Swords. There's two aspects here that have to be acknowledged, and they meet in the middle, right? And so when we have our mind balanced and our emotional state balanced in this way, then we have the capacity to bring these two aspects together with the fire of the cauldron underneath. You can see it right here, to create something new. So sometimes that means living out previously ignored sides, like to actually embody or bring in that which has not been part of our experience before, and putting contrasts together. But it has to start with the peace of mind within ourselves, and then the active quality of the alchemy at the heart of the matter, if we want to actually, get the wheel going again, right? We want to get this, the steam turns the turbine, which makes the energy, right? And so in some ways, it is the steam that comes from the water and the fire being brought together. The steam moves and turns that turbine of the wheel of fortune. Again, we're not going to know where it lands, but that was the whole point of this full moon, was to show us that no matter what, it is going to change something within us. And depending on where it is in your chart, it's going to show you what area of life this is going to impact the most, right? And so we know that it's going to turn the wheel. We're taking an active effort to do so with this card of art or temperance, right? The Sagittarian nature. We are taking an active role. This is mutable fire to turn the wheel. But again, we have to come from a peace of mind, a willingness to bring these two contrasts together and find a balance, and then actually do the alchemical work, right? Have that fire, that cauldron fire burning at the center, just like where Vesta is in Libra, right? We can all rally around this fire that is really the fire at the center of our souls, right? The alchemical fire that allows us to grow and transmute is at the center of us, and we can all rally around this together. This also represents the action of Mercury in the 6th house, because Mercury being the ruler of the mind, the movement of the mind, ideas, the logos, right? That manifestation power and consciousness. When it's in Virgo doing the alchemical work under the surface, you get these aspects coming together. And so with all that Virgo energy, especially with Venus and Mars coming right behind, this seems to be really a strong component of where we're, going this week, especially. So where we're at energetically, where we're rooted here, the potential behind this, again, the 6 of forces, the incredible power of water, right? The forces, again, are that creative element, that wands energy in the Akashic Tarot. And then you have the water. So these two opposite elements coming back again, right? That the water itself is able to shape the landscape. So we know, running in the background, we may not be fully aware of this, and this is where we can be energetically rooted. It is this feeling-based landscape, our intuition, our feelings, our energy itself that is able to make this really significant change, and has so much momentum behind it, so much power behind it, right? If you think about Niagara Falls, for instance, Niagara Falls was originally used as like a power station for a power grid, like an electrical power grid, right? Just like a dam is created because the power of the water is able to, again, move that that turbine in order to create electricity. So we, as spiritual beings and as energetic beings, right, that are consciously aware and able to direct the force of this energy. This, at the root of things, shows you exactly how powerful it is. And we have to be mindful of this. Again, that we know where it's being directed, that we are fully capable of harnessing this energy, because what it does is literally shape landscape, right? It literally allows the creation of what we want to manifest. This is the power behind it. it's the logos that we're able to consciously know what we want. It is the emotional energy behind it that actually puts it into form, especially in the subconscious, right? It's all in the subconscious, right? By the time it gets to your conscious mind, it's already embedded in the subconscious. So you have to work within this realm, which again, this is why meditation, prayer, energy work, even body work is an essential. It's not an option anymore if you are wanting to move through this process successfully or with as little damage as possible. This is where we can energetically root ourselves here. And it's to be aware of this, because what we are aware of is this new stage, right? The birth of something new, an old phase passing away. I mean, this is very maternal. This is about fertility. This is about form and structure with the number 4. You have these 2 children. You have the mother with a basket here. I know it's kind of not very clear. Sometimes it's hard to find good images, but we do see here that this is where our conscious awareness is. So we have this energy of creation through our feelings and the power of our feelings at the subconscious realm here, moving up into us as an alchemist, right? Knowing that we have to put these 2 contrasting aspects together, dissolve them down, fire and water that creates steam, because we are aware that what we're doing is birthing something new. We're birthing something new. There may be labor pains, right? We have to acknowledge that there's work to be done. Again, Venus in Virgo, she does not want to work, but in this case, she kind of has to. And so it's important to acknowledge this. And we do see that something new is coming in. There is a birth of something new. An old phase is passing away. And part of our role is to be this doula of this situation, to be the midwife. And also the alchemist at the heart of it is someone who intentionally and very masterfully is able to transmute these contrasting aspects into something new. Ooh, boy. Wow, that's very powerful. And so, like I said, what to expect, the wheel turns, right? Here's our Sagittarius. Here's Jupiter right here. Jupiter retrograde in the 1st degree of Pisces right now, right? It's very powerful. It's going to move back into Aquarius this week as well in its retrograde, and then come into opposition with Mars at the last degree of Leo at Regulus, okay? Jupiter and Mars in an opposition is usually a very powerful connection, because the potential energy created by these 2 very forceful, fiery agents can actually really get some things done, right? And so, but we don't know where this wheel is going to necessarily stop. We just know that the steam is going to turn the wheel, and it's going to turn it at whatever rate we are producing this steam at. We don't know where it's going to, but we need this peace of mind over here in order to successfully ride this out, right? Ride the cycle, right? The spokes here move, but the hub stays exactly the same place, even though everything else moves. So keep that in mind as well. This is fortune. It could be bad fortune. It could be good fortune. What it is, though, is it's important that we realize facts, right? That there is eternal motion, but at the center, it is stabilized. There's always things changing. And we have to accept our fate, right? Because our fate is nothing more than what we have created for ourselves. And if we have peace of mind at the beginning of this, if we acknowledge how powerful our own emotional and feeling-based energy is, if we embody at the heart of us this masterful alchemy and are aware here of what we are birthing, then we will be able to, successfully ride the turning of the wheel and accept where it lands and move from there. So when we look at our guidance for today, Archangel Gabriel was reversed last week too. And as you see, we got the zebra and the polar bear again. Like, this is coming out pretty strongly in terms of realizing that we're protected, that we have natural camouflage in some ways, and to not really engage in our fear. This is the zebra. So Archangel Gabriel being reversed, again, we're having a really strong, it seems to me that there is, we're not quite... You see, this is the 6 here, right? The 6 of forces, but then you have the 3 that is represented by Gabriel. we have to actually invest some of this energy here and realize that we're protected. Now, a zebra is naturally camouflaged, right? And so it can move through its environment and be protected from predators because of its natural camouflage. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't ever move, and it has to live it lives its life, right? It goes and looks for food. It interacts with its young, right, and grazes and lives its life in a natural environment because it knows that it can, when necessary, be protected, right? But there is a certain amount we can't just stay still all the time. We have to kind of like step out energetically. And Archangel Gabriel being reversed, we're still having a struggle in some ways of trusting the message, right? Trusting the divine messenger and trusting our ability to hold the message and to utilize it as well. It goes both ways. When you have the 6, you have to invest the energy in some way. And with Gabriel reversed, it's like we're still having a hard time getting the message. We're blocked in some ways. Our ability to give the message of to be a messenger, to communicate, even if it's not verbally, but to communicate our energy, it still feels blocked in some way. And with Mercury just coming off this opposition to Pluto, which was yesterday, I think that again, there's a lot here that people are getting overwhelmed with. And that opposition really highlighted how much that in some ways in our minds, our communication, the way we conceptualize reality, we, on the one hand, feeling very secure and safe enough to increase our knowledge base. But on the other hand, with that opposition to Pluto retrograde, we still have to contend within ourselves with what is pulled up, what we see when we pull up more and more layers, this undercurrent of occult energy and occult is just what's hidden, right? These hidden underground flows and channels of water that move through all reality. We have to acknowledge these within us right now. Very much so, as part of our transformational potential, right? Because that's what Pluto ultimately represents, is our transformational power on like a very, very deep level, stuff that's usually repressed way down into the collective unconscious. So I feel like that here, it's just a reminder again that like we have the ability to really bring in the message, to be open to the messages, to communicate appropriately, and to be a voice even for just ourselves, and know that we're protected, right? That there's nothing to fear. And if we shut down our communication, if we shut down our ability to receive communication in any way, then we're not really going to be able to tap in and invest into how powerful this flow through us really is. So it's just kind of a reminder. And we'll just, the zebra, let go of your fear, know that you're safe and protected at all times. That doesn't mean not be aware and cautious and paying attention to what's going on. I mean, the zebra will stop and utilize its natural camouflage when necessary, okay? But doesn't just like sit still in fear all day, every day, and just, because you have to live your life and you have to communicate and you have to take in communication. And if you don't allow this to, move through you out of fear, out of wanting to protect yourself, right? Of being attacked or being trolled or just whatever, even at an energetic level, even an emotional level, that we'll never be able to learn anything and to utilize this power at the root of us. And again, the polar bear, again, stand up for yourself, speak your truth compassionately, no attachment to outcome. And I would say along with this, since that's come up so many times, we also have the King of Keys, like, this is us, right? Embodying this leadership and this authority in the land, in the physical environment that we find ourselves responsible for. This person is coming back from where they were. They're not at their kingdom like the queen is. She's waiting for the king to come back. The king in this instance is heading back, right? And he's taking stock of everything in his kingdom from outside of it because he's responsible for providing. He's responsible for protecting and to be a leader and a well, I would say a leader and I'm losing the word here, a representative, right? A representative of this kingdom and authority and responsibility here. And so we know that something is coming through. We're aware of this passing of an old phase, this birth of a new. We understand that we're kind of like cosmic doulas right now, especially the star seeds and the light workers. But we all, at this point, that if you're still here on earth, we're all part of this now. And to, no attachment to outcome, but also speak your truth. Stand up for yourself. A king here is royal, sovereign. This Regulus, the last degree of Leo, is responsible for everything and steps into his power and wields this power appropriately while something is being birthed. And so don't be afraid to, I would say, don't be afraid to speak your truth, to be compassionate, to stand in your own authority of what is around you, what's valuable to you, what are you responsible for? Because what's coming through is new and you have to let go of what is old, but you can't, you have to actually be very confident in what's going on around you in order to confidently be this doula on a spiritual level. So this is the reading for today, and I think let's look at the chart here as we go through this as well. All right, guys. So I'm going to check in with the stream real quick. All right. Meow, meow. All right. I hope everyone's doing well. I really do hope you had a refreshing weekend, or at the very least, got some respite for what's coming this week. So here's our chart for today. As you see here, the moon has moved into Pisces. So this is certainly, it's important that we realize how much we get consumed and dissolved into the collective unconscious, and all of the boundaries go away when we have this moon in Pisces, right? So the emotional landscape and our feeling-based experience, right? This personalized feeling-based experience that the moon represents, how we feel, and the movement and regulation of our internal waters. In Pisces, it all goes away. So there's no real separation between the water within us and the collective unconscious, the Akash, right? And is represented by Pisces. And so it's really difficult. I think we're having a hard time. This is where Archangel Gabriel, I think, really comes in, because it's related to Fomalhaut, right? Fixed star Fomalhaut at 3 to 4 degrees of Pisces. So, I think that with the moon here, it can feel like we're dissipating into everything else. Like we don't have a place to really anchor ourselves. And this is why Venus, in an opposition to it exactly in Virgo, is so important, because at the very least, she is able to anchor us into something, just like that lotus, right? The lotus flower has its roots that move down through the water and have to search for something solid to anchor into. And this is where this opposition, I think, can really be useful. The moon in Pisces in an opposition to Venus in Virgo, which is really starting to challenge our ability to utilize the life force, the spinning discs of our chakras, for instance, right? The spinning of our toroidal field in an objective way, right? And at least in this moment, we're experiencing it rather than acting on anything in particular. And so Venus is at the very least able to handle that. It's like being on that, it's like being on a merry-go-round, right? Like you on the merry-go-round, you're not the one moving it. It is moving because you're in relationship with that spinning force, right? The wheel spinning. There's that wheel again. Oh, man. Wow. So the wheel of fortune spinning, we, in terms of our relationships, our material reality, what makes us feel secure and comfortable, what it is that's valuable to us, right? Venus represents all of these things in our lives, the value and the relationships, the projects, the resources, all of these things that we value, is on this spinning wheel, just like the wheel of fortune. And what we can be objective to it. We can ride it. And if you've ever been on like an old school carousel, for instance, they have the brass rings that you come around and swipe every time. And that is one way that we can be an active participant. We're not spinning the wheel. We're not in control of the wheel spinning necessarily, but we do have this opportunity to kind of practice our ability to harness every time we go around. Grab a ring, right? Grab a ring. And so this is really kind of anchoring us in some ways, and at the very least giving us this tension with the moon in Pisces, which is, like I said, everything kind of dissipates here, and it's really hard to get your footing. But it's that root system that's making its way down through the depths of the water, the murky depths, to find the soil at the bottom that the roots can connect to. And so, on the one hand, this is, when we're in Pisces, right? A lot of generals and admirals, like military leadership, the people who are supposed to actually give of themselves entirely to the collective, are born during Pisces time, right? And so there is an idea in Pisces that we're fully dedicating ourselves. This is where that martyr syndrome comes from in the Piscean archetype, because we give of ourselves totally. And so in this opposition here, we may be wanting to dedicate ourselves emotionally. And again, this is important to realize that if we are not grounded or rooted in why we're doing this within ourselves, if we ourselves are not grounded or rooted, it's not going to matter as much. Like, it'll be dissipated. So we may want to dedicate ourselves to the service of the community, of humanity, in this very, in a very open and surface way, right? It's kind of like being in a parade in your full uniform, right? You are dedicated to the service of humanity. Humanity is acknowledging it. There's this whole process of showcasing it, but it's also with the assurance that you're going to be emotionally sustained by the people at large, right? So there is this sense within us that we innately feel of dedicating ourselves. And again, there's that zebra, trust that you are protected, trust that you have everything that you need. And you may not necessarily get in your actual physical material reality all of the assurances that you will be backed up based on the service to your community. But Venus is in a position that's like, well, is if you're committing yourself and everything that you find value in, if you're willing to ride the wheel of fortune and see it as a turbine that's creating energy, you will be able to find that balance point without giving yourself emotionally over, because it's important that we, like I said, be rooted in something, have a root system that we can stabilize ourselves, and also actually pulls from the environment that what we actually need, right? Because it's one thing to just like give of ourselves, but that's the downside, especially with the moon in Pisces. Such a beautiful position, but also such a strong victimhood that comes through, right? Of just like, there are no you just completely give of yourself without any stabilization, any balance, anything to anchor yourself to. It's like being in a sensory deprivation tank and never feeling the sides of the tank or anything. You just kind of go, and you don't know the difference between yourself and other. Venus in Virgo is definitely letting us know the difference between ourself and other. Now, before this happened, actually, the moon was you can see here, is in a quincunx to the sun in Leo, also in a quincunx to Vesta in Libra. Let me look at that again. I just want to make sure that that's accurate. So we definitely have this quincunx, right? This 150-degree angle. This is an inconjunct, right? These are opportunities for adjustment because they don't fit together. And the moon now, or the sun now in Leo, right? In its rulership, we really are starting to want to dramatize our achievements, like really start to, just like we do every year with the sun in Leo, right? This is full on summertime here in the Northern Hemisphere. This is when we really start to blossom in our nature, right? We start to feel the joy. We start to express ourselves through our joy, our creativity, our passion. And we want to dramatize it. We want to show it, right? It's shining unconditionally and with full devotion. But there is a certain amount of, at this point, wanting to conquer. We want to show off that we can conquer the animalistic tendency that is the root of our passion, and show that we can use that and be rewarded for it, I guess, to a certain extent. We have the capacity to overcome these tendencies, utilizing certain practices, right? Again, there's that Kundalini yoga, there's the Tantra, there is the meditation, the prayer, all of those types of activities that will, these traditional procedures that allow us to overcome and harness the passion and the animal, the bio energy that is at the root here that allows us to do this. But with the moon in a quincunx, it's just like, okay, well, I have to focus here on this very narrow pathway, right? It's one thing to be like, look at everything that I've done, and I want to show you how I've done this, right? Dramatize our own efforts, show you how I've done it, how I've come to this point to gather all of these representations, right, of everything that I've accomplished. Whereas the moon is just like, focus. Focus. It is a very narrow window. And sometimes that traffic on that isthmus can get really backed up if it's not moving in a way that is, we don't want the blood vessels to get clogged up. There we go. We don't want the vessels. We don't want the fluid within us to get clogged up. We don't want there to be any traffic jams along the way. And the thing is if we are trying to like spread out too far in terms of our self-expression, right? The sun, if that spills over, right? The cars can't like go into the ocean, right? They have to stay on the isthmus to get from point A to point B. And so we want to, this again is going to require an adjustment on our part, from how we feel based on how we express ourselves, because we can't have it both ways. And in fact, these things don't fit together. And it's really important, I think, today that we are acknowledging that, because just like I said with the full moon, like we're going, that showed us on some level what to expect when the blood pumps and moves the blood through the system. It spreads through the entire system, and the system is the collective. And so there are ways that this cannot be accounted for, that we have to be willing to face head on and to be prepared for. Again, the wheel's going to turn and we're not going to know where it's going to stop. And this is important that we realize how we are going to address this when it does finally stop. And there is, in fact, some measure of response to that. So the sun, we're getting really kind of, full of ourselves, and that's not a bad thing. It just is what it is. And the moon in Pisces right now is like, okay, well, that's great, but we still have to keep everything flowing, and it's in these particular channels, right? The fluid flows through these channels, and we can't necessarily block them up by, we want to keep pumping blood through. It's just like if your blood pressure is too high, this is where it causes problems, and it causes a traffic jam. So that's one way to think about this quincunx with the sun and the moon today as well. And then the moon comes along, we said the opposition, and then there's not a ton of transits today, and I think this is really helpful because it gives us this opportunity to really get clear with ourselves, to kind of like let things dissolve down and really get a sense of, in the next day or so, like each individually, how we feel about things, how we feel about our role within the collective, how we can then consolidate that entire experience back into a seed point, and that'll be when the moon comes into Aries. But for the time being, we have this day here, and then the moon comes into a square with the nodes, right? The nodal axis of Gemini and Sagittarius, North Node, South Node, Rahu, Ketu. however you characterize it, is really that karmic axis of where we're going and where we've been, in this case collectively. And it's, again, when you see where it is in your chart and maybe how it's impacting things in your natal chart as well, this gives you a good idea of what to expect in your own personal life. So there's that square right here, the moon in Pisces in a square to the nodal axis. Which means it's a T-square, right? Because the nodal axis is always in opposition to each other. So you see Gemini, you'll see Sagittarius, and the moon is the T-square. So the moon actually naturally in this position is able to alleviate the tension on that opposition, show you where the balance point is. And it's not easy because it's a square from both sides, but it's always these squares and these oppositions where we are challenged and learn the most. We grow the most from especially these squares. And so this moon squaring her own nodal axis right now is very karmic, and it's very much based on how we feel about this karmic opposition. Oh, that was really sad. The cat made the most sad little noise. So, and where is this? We have to spur, all of our energy towards something. Right? And so this axis right here, this nodal axis that we see with the north node and the south node, the north node is having us perform this nosedive, right? That we make a commitment that we are going to push the envelope and accept that there is a mind over matter type of scenario. This is where we're headed in order to evolve. We don't know what's going to happen with this nosedive, right? We just know that it's time to take the plunge, so to speak. Now, with the South Node in Sagittarius, it's way more about this theatrical presentation of opportunity that kind of forces the growth. It's like, hey, look at everything that we can create together. Let's I'll show you it in a dramatic representation, and it kind of pulls people into a scenario where they're forced to grow almost, because they're like, oh yeah, I see this opportunity. Let's move towards it. And this is much more about a collective opportunity, because Sagittarius is about our collective paradigm, our collective value systems, the philosophy and the religious ideas that make up our belief systems. Remember, that's the South Node. That's where we're headed from, the tail of the dragon. What needs to be released? We have to take, again, there's this certain element of not knowing exactly what's going to happen, but knowing that we have to take the plunge. And so this square to her own nodal axis with the moon in Pisces today is allowing us to find the fulcrum of this opposition by spurring forward our own energy for the sake of this collective goal, right? It's like being on a racehorse, for instance. That's actually the Sabian symbol, is a jockey spurring their horse forward, right? To outdistance everybody. And so, and it's not for us. When it's in Pisces, it's for everybody. And so we feel, and we have a sense within us on a personal level, how even though it's a square to the nodal axis, right? It's at cross purposes. This is the place that will allow us to find the balance point between where we're going and what we're releasing. Because it's not like the South Node or K2 is something we should ignore. We have to keep this in mind as we are moving towards the goal, which is the North Node, right? The head of the dragon is pulling us in this direction, which is to take this plunge without really knowing what's going to happen. We could very well fail, but we still have to do it. This is where we're headed. Rather than having some sort of representation to draw us towards growing and bettering ourselves. We've done that already. This is why the South Node is the tail, because we have to release this energy, and also the tail kind of moves and gives us the momentum forward. So it's about each of us acknowledging that we have to put all of our energy forward for the sake of this collective goal. It's, yeah, of course we win the race, and that's good for us too. But really it's about, the race is a representation of what we're all participating in, either as spectators or as participants. But either way, we're all participating in this race together. And each of us has this opportunity to really push our emotional and spiritual sense of self forward in order to find the balance point in this nodal axis, which is really, when it comes down to it, is each of us has to take this plunge without really knowing where it's going to land us, but also trusting that we have the capacity to pull the nose back up when we need to. And letting go of having a need for something collectively representing where we're going. And that's really hard. We're in new territory. We're in a place where humanity has never been before. And so it does seem like we have to do a nosedive, take a plunge, accept that failure is a possibility, but there's no turning back now. And when we spur ourselves forward, whatever it is that is moving us forward, whatever it is within us that inspires the rest of the people to get involved in this process, that's going to help us balance this out today. So it's like, on the one hand, with the sun in Leo, the moon is helping us adjust ourselves to the reality that we're inseparable from the collective, which is really hard to acknowledge when the sun is in Leo, because it's all about us individually at that moment. So their quincunx is there, but it also, in an opposition to Venus, like I said today, we have to have an objective approach to the turning of this wheel and kind of see it as a harnessing of energy, like a turbine moving, right? And ultimately what it's doing is allowing us to pull the energy up through our root system. That's what Virgo really represents, is the root system working under the surface to pull up the nutrients for what? The birth, the fruit that bears the seed of the next cycle. And birth is when that seed comes to be presented to the world, which is really what Libra ultimately represents, coming after Virgo. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity today, and I think that there is also a lot of energy today that is having to really just allow for the dissipation into the collective experience, but at the same time, that opposition to Venus and Virgo, showing us in our actual valued reality, our material reality, how we can successfully harness the energy of this wheel turning. Because that's really what it feels like to me, as a turbine that is turning to create power as a result of the steam that we create when we bring fire and water together as a master alchemist. So, and we set the tone for this with the new moon in Cancer, the productive relationship that is ritualized and sanctified of these two polar opposites within us, the fire and the water. Now we're alchemizing. That's where we're at right now. And even though the moon, the south node of the moon, K2, is in Sagittarius and alchemy is the Sagittarian card, it's really with Jupiter in Pisces and its rulership, co-rulership of Pisces, we're really expanding on all of the possibilities and expanding the space from which we can tap into, right, from the collective. So a lot of opportunity today. I'll be putting out some written, just like the weekly, kind of go over the bullet points of the weekly transits and do an update on social media. So I invite you to follow Catalyst Energies on social media, Telegram or Facebook. That's in the description box below. And of course, if you're interested in a reading and really getting into how deeply this impacts you, and also understanding your starseed origins, understanding your soul's evolution through evolutionary astrology, you can book through catalystenergies.net. That's in the description box below as well. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you as a piece, a spark of source creator, just like myself. And we really are all in this together now. And, everybody's counting equally. And remember where Saturn is. We don't have a Saturn transit right this second, but I will remind all of us that Saturn has now moved into the next degree of Aquarius in its retrograde. And it's really about the nosedive, right? We don't know where we're going, but what Saturn is allowing for right now in Aquarius is the ability to kind of wall off everything else so that we can be within our own space in order to gather and to gain inspiration from a quiet place, right? When we kind of shut everything out, when Saturn, we allow the walls of the maze to just kind of hold us and not have any inside, we're not having any inside or we're having any outside influence, right? We're allowing ourselves to just receive pure insight from this quiet place, this inspiration. This can really also help us today, which is, again, difficult with the moon in Pisces, but we can also gather from this place as well. It doesn't have to be something where we just let ourselves go entirely and don't have any personal boundaries. We can utilize Saturn's energy as the outside boundary and structure and reinforcement that allows us to really tap into inspiration that's not coming from the outside. The moon in Pisces, it can be a little more difficult because we're picking up everything at that point. So let Saturn in some ways work for you, within you, right? I mean, Saturn gets a bad rap, but it is what it is. And you can have this negative view of Saturn, or you can work the transits as a conscious co-creator instead of letting these transits define you, because that means that somebody else is just utilizing and harnessing your energy for their own creation and not for the betterment of humanity. So again, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I will see you tomorrow on the Daily Medicine. Take care. Bye.